These extraordinary images are the work of photographer Geoffrey Beckham. Through him, we came to know about a different Italy, an antique Italy that's still very much alive. It's a place where simple colors and unadorned lines are the fresh expression of a rich culture. With each picture in this book, we stumbled onto what seemed new country. Its author captured a native glory. He brought to life regions of Italy where culture has conferred on stone and stucco and architectural music. Now, there's probably no place in all America that hasn't somehow been enriched by Italians. And yet how little we know of their baseline culture, the hill towns, the villages, the ports. In looking at these pictures, we asked ourselves, how did the photographer capture them? How did he travel? What else did he discover along the way? This, then, is Geoffrey Beckham's journey, a photographer's tale on travels.
Funding for Travels was provided by a grant from Lexus. Because we understand the journey is its own reward. Travels is also made possible by the Corporation for Public Broadcasting and by the financial support of viewers like you.
Venice is the most beautiful city in the world. But for me, the fascination has gone. The once grand Queen of the Seas has lost her mystery, betrayed by postcards, tourist brochures, and cheap souvenirs. My love affair is over.
Geoffrey Beckham is a Midwesterner whose career has evolved from architecture to painting, now to photography. His love affair with Italy has also evolved, from Renaissance monuments now to another, simpler Italy.
This Italy is full of surprises. It's the old Italy, a place that once seemed beyond the reach of time, but whose days now seem numbered. I have decided to make this journey right down through the country that has given me so much, before it is too late, to seek out those unique, hidden, fragile places before they're transformed by the modern world.
Geoffrey Beckham's search starts in Burano. It's only an hour from Venice, but for 14 centuries, the islanders have lived far from its opulence. Burano's a place where people are born and die in the same house, where painted walls are tangible evidence of faith and hope.
There's none of the wealth and grandeur of Venice here, but for me it's the richest place in Italy. It has the most amazing collection of painted houses in the entire Mediterranean. My days are spent walking and looking, and Burano is the perfect place to do just that. There are no cars here, so this is the one place in Italy I know I won't end up beneath the wheels of a bus. Burano has always been a place where everyone's equal. Each family dependent on the day's fishing, each house a simple cottage, just like the one next door. With precious little cash to throw around, painting their homes has always been the one affordable way people could express their individuality and imagination. For me, this is what makes the island come alive.
Sempre esce questo colore qua.
Per l'infinita.
Per tutte le case.
Ah, sì.
Uno verde, uno rosso, uno celeste, uno blu. Una ha un colore.
Quello che piace,
Le piace questa casa?
Sì.
Chi pinta questa casa? Questa casa di lui?
Noi l'abbiamo tinta.
Ah, sì.
Marito e moglie.
Ah,
per sparagnare di soldi.
ah.
This is the same kind of paint they've always used. A whitewash made of powdered lime mixed with seawater and glue. The colors used to come from crushed brick and colored earth, but today, these have been replaced by brighter synthetic pigments. Although it's cheap, the paint doesn't last. And after only a year of blazing sun and freezing mists, you need a new paint job. Now on Burano, that's a public matter. Neighbors always have firm opinions about new colors. And with no flashy car in the drive, color is the Buranelli way of keeping up with the Joneses. But now, Burano is changing. Since colored houses are beginning to attract tourists to the island, a local law has been passed that forbids any changes of the colors. I fear this attempt to keep the tradition alive may do just the opposite, for without the fun of choosing and debating new colors, annual painting could become just a chore. But the Buranelli don't take kindly to being told what to do, and in their hands, I think Burano will remain a magical place.
In Geoffrey Beckham's hands, even the gaudiest color seems to fulfill a genuine purpose. It is a window to Italy's forgotten soul, whimsical, sometimes foolish, filled with passion and often laughter.
I never have any set itinerary for my journeys. I just keep my eyes open and stop where I want. I have a vague plan to work my way south, checking out some old haunts and hoping to find some new.
Geoffrey Beckham's journey will take him the full length of Italy in a series of zigzags. The first stop is Modena, the home of Maserati, Ferrari, and Luciano Pavarotti.
I've come here partly due to my past as an architect. I have a half memory there's a building here I ought to see. Since it's out of town, the trusting lady at the tourist office lent me her bike. Aldo Rossi is the Mr. Big of modern Italian architecture. He's designed everything from town halls to teapots. But this, they say, is his most important building. For me, only the soft colors save it from being unbearably brutal. But still, who'd want to live here? The answer is no one. Italians have a fascination with death. Only in today's Italy could or would a place like this be built. A megabuck, multi-story bone park where countless corpses and marble lockers await the day of resurrection.
Much of Italy is bound together not by highways, but by railway tracks. It is still a matter of national pride when the trains run on time, which, contrary to popular belief, is often, and when station masters and ticket agents are replaced by high-tech computers and dot matrix itineraries. Taking photographs, I'm constantly on the move. When I want to take some time looking at things more slowly, painting's the way I do it. And there's no better place than Camoli. It's a lovely fishing village with tall, brightly painted houses. But here, things aren't always what they seem. Here, paint isn't just decoration. It's downright deception. Early in the last century, fortunes were made in Camoli from the sea. These ship owners and naval mercenaries converted much of their wealth into real estate, but the town didn't have the history and culture of rival ports like Genoa. So with Italian flair, the people of Camoli competed against each other with paint to transform the flat walls of their houses into elegant facades. These early artists were no more than set painters, and today their scenery has faded. Shuttered window, Baroque balcony, majestic marble are flecked by time.
Seeing some scaffolding on a building above the town makes me think perhaps the old skills aren't dead. This looks like a pretty fancy paint job. It turns out to be a pretty fancy restaurant, too. And while the prices bit into my budget, the food certainly matched the view. Just as I finish my meal, the owner, Maria Rosa, comes out to show me some photographs of what the place looked like before the restoration work began. As she talks, the reasons behind the tattered condition of the town become clear. Local law requires that all new painting must match the old, And although Camoli is by no means a poor place, even here few people can afford the enormous cost of such painstaking work.
I decori sopra le finestre. Una bella giornata di sole, sì. Si sta molto bene quando c'è questo sole. Ecco le ragazze che stanno lavorando.
Well, this is a surprise. I figured the only people still doing this kind of work would be aging artisans.
Interessante, sì, bello.
These four women learned their craft at art school in Genoa. They've now formed a partnership with their professor, who spent many years developing special paints. Paints that don't coat the surface, but soak into the plaster and therefore endure.
E che anno di questa casa?
Lo so, 1927.
So, nuovo, eh?
These fresco techniques are hardly changed from the 15th century. Over some 400 years, the transfer of the design from the template to the newly plastered wall remains much the same. So too the quick and careful application of color to the surface. Michelangelo would have been at home with all these techniques, although he wouldn't have recognized the silicone-based paints.
Quanti mesi per questa casa in tutto?
Abbiamo iniziato il 4 luglio, quindi per ora sono 3 mesi.
Sì.
E è praticamente finita. Manca un pezzo in basso nell'ultimo fascione, ancora una settimana, 10 giorni e è finita.
E quanti anni pittura?
Di durata?
Sì.
Ma più o meno a 20 anni sicuri. Si spera il più possibile.
Noi speriamo molto di più.
Sì, no, è possibile.
Sì, è il migliore che c'è oggi come oggi.
Since that work isn't typical of the regional style, the girls offered to show me the villa they'd painted last winter.
I fregi finti, persiane finte, e ha una tradizione genovese, appunto.
Quella di decorare le case, sì.
Sì.
Sì. In tutta la Liguria ci sono case decorate con finte persiane, appunto, così fregi. E questa qua ha una particolarità perché abbiamo fatto anche delle tendine.
It took them 6 months to paint this villa. Like many around here, it belongs to a lawyer from Milan. I can't believe my eyes. There isn't even a window here. Without the painting, this would be a plain concrete box.
Saluta tutti, fa un inchino e se ne va. Si crede bello come un Apollo e saltella come un pollo. Ma lui con grande serietà saluta tutti, fa un inchino e se ne va. Si crede bello come un Apollo e saltella come un pollo. Sopra il cappotto porta la giacca e sopra il gilet la camicia. Sopra le scarpe porta le calze, non ha un bottone con i lacci in sui calzoni. Solo Pippo non lo sa. E serio se ne va per la città. Si crede bello come un Apollo e saltella come un pollo.
The millions that visit the Leaning Tower every year seldom see the rest of Pisa. For the package tourist, Italy is reduced to a menu of shrink-wrapped sites where the dirt, the hassle, the life of the country are sealed out.
Pisa was once a great maritime republic. Avenues and waterways are studded with stone palaces dating from the Middle Ages. But when Pisa lost a bloody war to Florence, remnants of her glory days were obliterated. Coats of arms were plastered over and walls painted. 6 centuries later, they emerge as living art for Geoffrey Beckham.
Bello, eh?
Sì, è bella.
Oh, sì, va bene questa.
Una borsina?
Grazie.
Una becca, non la chiamate?
Sì.
C'è il fagiolino, 7 etti, 2 lire.
No. Oh, no. Molto lontano, eh?
I'm usually an observer who looks at life from the outside. But in an Italian market, you just can't keep your distance. For a time, I'm part of the scene. I seldom succeed in getting exactly what I have in mind, but an Italian lesson is usually included in the price of lunch.
Va bene. Che tipo di pomodoro?
San Marzano.
San Marzano. Sei questa regione?
No, ho sbagliato, 500.
22 e 10 dei totali, 32.000 lire tutto. 32.000 lire tutto, trattata bene. Brava, brava, ecco, l'importante sono i pezzi da 1000. C'è da fare il lombo, eh?
Che pesce mangiare crudo?
Crudo?
Sì.
Quelli lì, muscoli.
Solo muscoli, no proprio.
No, quella roba lì no, solo muscoli. Bisogna aprirli e metterci il limone dentro.
Un po'.
Un po'?
Sì, solo un po'.
Quanti?
Sì. Sì, va bene.
Basta, no?
Sì, basta.
A posto?
Basta, sì.
800 lire. 9 e 10. Grazie mille.
Prego.
Buongiorno e grazie. Arrivederci.
Since most visitors to Pisa take pictures of the Leaning Tower, I've become something of a curiosity.
Mi piace il colore di questo muro, molto bello.
Sì, anche a me piace molto fotografare.
Oh sì?
Sì.
Sì? C'è una macchina di fotografare?
Sì, c'è una macchina.
It turned out he was a photographer too.
After Pisa, Geoffrey Beckham begins to work his way south towards Naples in a series of doglegs.
This is the old Italy, the Italy of earth and heaven.
The monastery of Monte Oliveto is nestled in the Tuscan hills, south of Siena, on a site inhabited since Etruscan times. Here the Benedictine monks still fulfill a 6th century vow by offering travelers a place to stay for the night. This is an uncharacteristically quiet Italy of church bells and chanting.
Following a late 20th century rule, if you plan to stay in a monastery, arrive before Vespers. If you don't, you may have to make do with a station waiting room. The sort of places I like to visit often don't appear on maps, let alone train routes. And rural buses are mere phantoms unless you've been initiated into the mysteries of their schedules. Ten years ago, I would have been in the back of a mule cart. But everywhere in Italy, the mule is now lost out. Of the countless hill towns I've visited, Serrano, just 80 miles north of Rome, is my favorite.
C'ha una barba dura, lei va a cercare come? Beh, ora la fammo. E poi
devo andare al ristorante.
Al ristorante,
Sì.
Qui c'è il ristorante e l'albergo non c'è. Sì. Però si mangia bene.
Oh.
Spaghetti al sugo, o fettuccine all'uovo e carne col contorno di patate. Se va al ristorante, prova se c'è una camera, così si può
molto
salire.
bene.
E dopo chiede, va a dormire, perché qui l'albergo non c'è. Le può darsi che le trova lei.
In una casa privata, sì.
Può darsi in case private che trovi, sì.
Va bene, va bene.
Poi,
Grazie.
senz'altro.
Sì, grazie.
Questo sveglia.
According to the barber, this is the place to find out where to get a room for the night.
Grazie, scusi, conosce una camera per questa notte per dormire?
Sì.
Sì? E qui vicino?
Qui vicino.
Oh, nel centro?
Qui nella parte vecchia.
Di dove è il casa?
Massimo Marroni.
Poi i suoi figli, sposati, che stanno qui vicino a me. E ci si sta bene, un paesino che ci si sta bene. Poi d'inverno sa che è un po' freddo.
Oh, sì.
Tanto da tutte le parti è freddo.
Ah.
Dove si va è freddo.
Sì.
Però ci si sta bene. Venga, venga.
Sì.
Guardi.
Ah,
Venga.
sì.
Questa è una sala.
Sì.
È una casa di mio figlio, di quell'antico
Ah, sì,
di
sì,
prima.
sì.
Venga. Qua si vede tutto Sorano, guardi quanto è bello, che
molto
bella
bello,
veduta,
sì,
che bel
molto
verde
bello.
che si vede.
Sì.
Se le valigie le vuole appoggiare qui.
Oh sì, grazie.
Qui. Venga, che qua c'è la camera.
Ah, sì.
Non è tanto grande, però
Sì.
insomma lei tanto gli fa, guardi.
Ah,
Qua
no.
guarda, si vede
Va bene,
Sorano,
sì.
guardi quanto è bella, vero?
Hill towns were built to be impregnable refuges from a hostile outside world. Today in Sorano and in many others, the outside world is still kept at bay. The 20th century and its automobiles stay beyond the narrow town gates. There, people tend to gather. Inside the walls, mostly the old remain. Modern society is not anxious to live in the isolation of cold, damp stone houses.
Sozzinte braccia poi sta vita, ma tunnalla non avvide come si infama bella.
I see color and condition of walls as a litmus of vitality. Colors fade as life drains away. Each place has its own excuse: drought, crop failure, government interference. But the result's the same: towns half abandoned and colors almost gone. But there's some hope for Sorano. A few houses have been rebuilt as holiday homes. And although the Soranelli are a stubborn lot who fought off all assaults for more than a millennium, the arrival of Roman legions of dentists and lawyers may be its salvation. "20 miles down the road to Naples, I stopped off for a bath. The area round the hot sulfur springs of Saturnia is said to be the oldest inhabited place in Italy. It's certainly got the oldest jacuzzi. After wallowing for a couple of hours, I'm hitting the road for Naples once more. I'm in no hurry, and there's plenty to look at. Naples is a madhouse, but I love it. I don't come here to paint or photograph. I come here to seize a bit of the old Italy.
At the center of Naples lies a shopping bazaar that may be 2,500 years old. And what do people come here to buy? Religious objects. For sheer glitz, this street has no rival. Flashing crosses, lifelike portraits of Christ. This is the Neapolitan way. And plastic may work just as well as precious metal. The flashier it is, the greater the chance it and its owner will be noticed now and in the hereafter.
But I haven't come here to buy a Christ with a 220-volt halo. I'm looking for an older Neapolitan specialty, an ex voto.
Ex voti? No, noi non ne abbiamo ex voti, abbiamo soltanto un tipo.
Oh, sì.
Il cuore. Dunque, vuole vedere l'ex voto?
They sell prayers here, little metal ones. And that's more or less what an ex voto is.
Di nulla, buongiorno.
But she didn't have the one I wanted. People buy these physical prayers of thanks or requests for cure to give to their favorite saint. I wanted a pair of eyes.
Voto solo in Napoli?
Sì, per la maggior parte solo a Napoli. Questi sono cose che fanno per grazia ricevuta, sono doni che danno ai santi, per grazia ricevuta.
Voto antico.
In a sense, an ex voto serves as a kind of health insurance, and at the price, $7, it's a stunning bargain.
Procida is a small island 10 miles across the bay from Naples. Legend has it that St. Paul was brought here on his way to martyrdom in Rome. But I've just come for the colors. The village is a tangled mass of domes, arches, step paths, and wonderful softly colored walls.
E qui c'è un buon uomo di abbastanza. Però è razza pugliano. Appunto, mi sciappo da un mio dire. E io ci contavo cantare e cantare da mi sono stare miei.
I spent some time here 5 years back, and I was afraid by now that Procida might be overrun by the tourists who couldn't be crammed onto the nearby island of Capri. But I needn't have worried. If there are any tourists here, they're probably headed out of town, since the only map I could find is printed upside down. The houses here have been built and added to so many times over the centuries that islanders say a house isn't just a house is a story. I guess that makes this village a real saga. Up at the top of the hill, San Michele, like other churches in this part of the world, is a great theater, an elaborate setting for the drama of worship. But I'm not interested in the magnificent building. What intrigues me are the hidden corners where the paraphernalia of devotion has piled up over the centuries, where tarnished prayers bear witness to the faith and afflictions of those long dead. But the most intriguing things are seldom on display. You have to poke around a bit to find them. They're hidden backstage in the prop room, and you never know what you're going to discover. This time, it's a room with 15th century manuscripts lying around. These are the ancient recesses of faith beneath the church, where saints, polychrome angels, and gilded coffins await the temporary resurrection of some far-off procession. Despite the plastic sheeting, I still feel their power.
Beneath the church lies level upon level of cellar cut from solid rock, a kind of sacred archaeological site. To descend is to exhume a tomb of Baroque religious expression. And at the bottom, the very foundation of faith, lie the mortal remains of the monks and martyrs who made this church possible.
Well, after my experiences on Procida, I think I'll climb aboard the 20th century once again. I'll head east to Puglia, the heel of the boot, my favorite region in Italy. It takes a long time to get there, but I usually find that the more trouble I take to get to a place, the better I like it when I get there.
Southern Italy may as well be a different nation from the north. Here in Alberobello, even the houses don't appear European. They're made of stone in the shape of teepees, and they're called trulli. The design has become a symbol of the region.
Since I was last here, Alberobello has sadly become an example of what can happen to even the most remote places once the tour groups arrive. Today, there are locks on all the doors, and the locals hide behind drawn curtains. Even now, when the tourists have flown home for the winter, the streets remain deserted. The buildings themselves, known as trulli, are the result of a 17th century tax dodge. At that time, taxes were collected on new buildings, but the local lord, a Baroque gangster known as One-Eyed of Apulia, saw no point in passing these on to the king. His scheme was simple. He banned the use of mortar. Since trulli are built without mortar, they're easy to knock down, and you can't tax rubble. So everybody had to build trulli. He was eventually thrown out, but not before he'd torn down whole villages after a tip the tax inspector was on his way. Partly thanks to One-Eyed, 300 years later, there are still over 25,000 trulli in this valley.
Early October, the grape harvest. In the south, the village is empty and everyone, even the children, celebrates and works to bring in the grapes.
Out in the countryside, the whole concept of tourism is alien. If they see you standing about, they assume you must be looking for work.
Le piace il vino?
Sì.
Sì?
E a lei?
Quanto devi bere?
Mezzo litro a mangiare.
Mezzo litro, solo mezzo litro.
A colazione mezzo litro. A sera un litro.
Guardando quei trulli, sbagliando un sorriso di più.
Ma pellicola la spacchiamo.
Ritorna sui mantorni il fior, sono i trulli di Alberobello, pur felice pur senza una lira, tutte corpo di un certo vinello, rullale, rullale, rullala.
Ho visto sul sole. Vuole un po' di vino?
Oh.
Preparo io i panzerotti e ce li mangiamo.
Grazie, signore.
Vediamo.
They didn't just give me lunch, they also invited me to supper. Now, who could pass up that offer?
Ok, queste.
Posso servirlo? Questo è il coniglio.
Oh, coniglio, sì.
Sì. Queste sono le patate fatte col coniglio.
Ah, sì, sì.
Speriamo che vi piacciono. E non è che so se sono saporizione. Scusi, se mi dai il piatto suo.
Italians are generally characterized as being friendly. In the South, hospitality reaches far beyond the stereotype.
Vediamo.
Speriamo che è buona.
Sì.
Io spero,
Ah, molto buono.
Sì? Così se è buono tornate un'altra volta a mangiare qua.
La vendemmia è finito?
No.
No? Quando è finito?
Appena
7-8 giorni.
7-8 giorni.
Deve essere il tempo buono però.
E prossimo l'olio di olive?
Sì.
Sì.
Novembre incominciamo.
Nel mese di novembre.
E per quanti giorni?
Di olive?
2 o 3 mesi.
2 o 3 mesi,
2 o 3 mesi.
Sì.
E lei c'è albero di...
L'alberi.
Sì.
Sì, ce l'ho, sì.
Molto?
Sì,
Abbastanza.
Abbastanza che
Per la
facciamo...
famiglia. Per la famiglia.
Oh, sì.
No, si fa la produzione per questa famiglia nostra che siamo 2. Mia figlia che sono 5 e l'altra figlia che sono 4. Noi facciamo la produzione per tutte e 3 famiglie e che poi diventiamo 11 persone.
Ah, sì.
A northern Italian writer once said of Southerners, they seem to belong to another period of time, to have a different rhythm, and to obey laws that here would be considered foreign, as if they were of a land farther away than China or India.
70 miles south of Alberobello, above the instep of the Boot, is the hill town of Krakow. Somehow, I feel this is the right place to end my journey. To me, it's come to represent the Old South, a parched landscape of hardship, fatalism, and plain bad luck. Years ago, a leak in the village water main caused a landslide. No one was hurt, but a number of homes slid down the hill. Although most houses remained perfectly sound, in an excess of bureaucratic zeal, the whole town was condemned. Krakow's fate has continued to slip with those houses. Since the landslide, 90% of the population has left. 10 years ago, the main church was broken into and stripped bare. There had been no rain to speak of for over 2 years, but when it did come, a brief downpour washed away the road. And then one night, thieves spirited away the town's venerated stone cross.
The former inhabitants of Krakow have been relocated in new, impersonal housing below the old town. There they live seemingly indifferent to their own history. Above them, the church, stippled with the patina of many centuries of devotion, falls prey to the elements and forgetfulness. But in the south, nothing is truly forgotten.
Krakow has its own personal saint protector, San Vincenzo. It seems that early in the last century, a neighboring village felt it had a better claim on the saint's corpse. One night, they broke into the church, grabbed the saint, and headed for home. But halfway back, his body suddenly became so heavy it could be carried no further. At this point, the saint miraculously piped up saying, "Take me back to Krakow and give me some music and welcome." And once a year, this is what he gets.
Che aveste l'onore di dare la vita per testimoniare la vostra fedeltà a Gesù Cristo, volgete amorevole lo sguardo su noi, che per sapiente disegno della provvidenza siamo indegnamente i fortunati custodi delle vostre reliquie.
Beneath the colors and the monuments, the frescoes and the gilding of Italy, lie the faith and strength of its people. These are the qualities that are immune to time and weather and intruders from other worlds. To talk about the color of Italy is, in the end, to talk about its people.
Everyone I spoke to longed to return to the old town, but they do nothing about it. What hope is left them rests in San Vincenzo, their failed protector. But San Vincenzo has abandoned Krakow. His statue now merely skirts the old town before returning to the saint's new home, a tin hut dumped in the middle of the new town. Despite all that has happened here, Krakow remains a hauntingly beautiful place. And the continuing trust the villagers place in San Vincenzo has shown me the power of a faith that seems to be missing in my world. Let's hope San Vincenzo will someday coerce an unsuspecting millionaire, or even the state, to rebuild his native town. Then the life and color will be restored to this lovely place.
I'm John Hemingway. See you next time on Travels.
Funding for Travels was provided by a grant from Lexus. Because we understand the journey is its own reward. Travels is also made possible by the Corporation for Public Broadcasting and by the financial support of viewers like you.
This episode of Travels is available on VHS video cassette for $19.95. Call 1-800-336-1917 or write to the address on your screen. Please specify program title or subject matter.
This is PBS.